man?
Yeah, hello. I'm doing quite good, man. How are you?
Oh, we're doing so well, man. We're going to jump into the intro, and then we can also start asking you some questions. But welcome, everyone, to Hashflow's Basic Degenomics, a weekly Twitter Spaces conversation where we invite those who are actively shaping the future of DeFi and the crypto industry to share their alpha. Today is episode 27. We have Sir Robert, a true gigabrain. This Chad is into wealth creation, financial education, skill acquisition, and so much more. Sir Robert, why don't you introduce yourself before we get started? You're on mute too, just FYI.
Yeah. I was actually talking. I didn't know I was on mute. Good day, everyone. My name is Robert Iwans. I'm a digital finance entrepreneur, aimed at creating systems that further wealth creation through digital skill acquisition, not just in DeFi per se, but Forex, um NFTs, crypto in general, things that can be done basically remotely from the comfort of your homes. Yeah, I specialize in actually working in that sector and creating opportunities for people there. So it's really, really nice to, although, well, my specialty is in decentralized finance, and it's how I came into limelight, so to speak, and built my brand. So it's really nice to be here, and I'm sure we are going to learn a whole lot actually. Nice one, Alan and Andrew, for setting this up. It's really nice.
Oh, 100%, bro. Thank you for making the time. We're definitely going to be learning a lot from you. And let's talk about skill acquisition, man. For the people who want to take advantage of this market, right, DeFi, crypto, or find a full-time opportunity in this industry, what skills should they be focused on mastering today?
Yeah, when it comes to this space, the beauty of DeFi is that how I usually teach it to people is that it literally presents opportunities in the Web 2 space down into Web 3. So literally anything you could be in a Web 2 field, in a Web 2 sector, any skill you need there, if you bring it into Web 3, if you bring it to decentralized finance, you would most likely make more of a killing if you apply the knowledge. I'm talking about sales, I'm talking about marketing, I'm talking about financial analysis, I'm talking about every single thing you may have probably done or experienced. A consultant, even. People are consultants for top protocols. I have some of my guys who do this. I have some of my guys who run DeFi analytics. I have some of my guys who do research, consultancy, sales, marketing, every single thing that can be done in even teaching. Information marketing is educating now. It's another field in itself that presents itself in Web3 and presents itself in DeFi. So when you talk about skill acquisition, most people only look at it from, what's the next X10? What's the next X100? What are we going to ape into? It's not that. DeFi presents a whole financial system. It's just, but in this case, it's just online. Let's put it that way. Let's put it that simply. So there are a lot of massive skills you can learn, from moderating to graphic designing, information marketing, and all that. And it just has more to do with you doubling down, finding a niche which you can specialize in, and then making the most out of it.
Definitely well said there. And I know you said like online is where a lot of the skills can be learned, but what about the best place online to learn these skills? What programs or platforms or resources should be, taking people's attention? And, there's a lot of wasted time as well. So what would you recommend people focus on specifically?
Folks looking to learn or looking to get specific information, there's something I like to think about: digital footprints, which are where people, which is basically you walk in the shoes of people who have gone a particular field before you. If I wanted to learn advanced corporate marketing or that bit of advanced level, I think I would go to Mr. Andrew Saunders over there. I think he's going to teach me one or two things. If you want to learn DeFi research, I mean, my profile is a very good way to start. Most of us have threads. Even if you want to learn business management and all that, I mean, and memes, I know I could come to you, Alan. So there are a lot of people, but the first thing you need to do is basically find somebody who has achieved the end result of what you want to start. Once you find someone who has completed it or who is in the process of completing it, basically get close to him, build connections, offer something of value in return, or be someone of value. So like when Andrew pitched me this show, I know that, yeah, he probably has seen my skill, or we've probably connected before. I think it was based on Arbitrum or something. So he saw that, okay, this guy actually knows his stuff. He knows what he's doing. It would be great to have him. And then I can also meet him. We can also exchange some sort of information, just like that. So in order to avoid waste, although you can still learn it, but anyway, follow someone's digital footprint, who is basically the manifestation of what you want to begin. And I promise you, it gets easier from there. You can do it alone, of course. There's YouTube, there's even AI. You can literally ask AI, explain DeFi like a 5-year-old. And they give you the steps and everything. But the thing I find very hard in this is that most of it is just in theory. It's not really put into practice there. But if you find someone who has the experience itself, who has maneuvered their ways out of certain situations, having that knowledge and equipping it beforehand, it's like your ammo, you keep it beforehand, keep it in your head, and once it reaches, you unlock your clips and, fire at whatever problem you have. So, yeah, first, the most important, you can learn anywhere. There are skills all around. There's YouTube, there's Coursera, there's Udemy. There are a lot of courses, edutech courses. But finding a specific mentor to get that specific knowledge, or finding a particular colleague, someone will actually help you more. So, yeah.
Yeah, Robert, I want to double down on what you said. I think literally everything you said has been my playbook in my entire career, and I think like a couple of things I would call out is exactly that. Like, there's a great book that most marketers know. It's called Feel Like an Artist, right? And basically what that book says is that you're never going to create a new idea. It's always been done before. Your job is to say, how do I take that idea? How do I evolve it into something that looks and feels different and new? And then how do I optimize it in maybe a way that hasn't happened before? So I think that's always a good thing to think about. The other thing that you said that I also want to double down on is I am such an enormous fan of these self-learning courses. Like, over the course of my 20-year career, I actually helped build and launch some of these platforms. And Udemy, for example, like, that's how I learned to DJ, and these and I think one thing as a tip for folks is, these classes can be expensive, and I would argue like they are worth every dollar, especially if you look at, the reviews and who the teacher is and their background. But you can literally do Google searches and find discount codes. And so most of these classes you can acquire for, $5. And what I sometimes do as another tip is I look at, typically key retail sales seasons, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, things like that. I bookmark all my favorite classes that I want, and then I go in there and get them all for $1,
Definitely well said. And I also think Sir Robert was on point with finding somebody who's accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. I think a lot of people try and reinvent the wheel, and it's like, just look at the steps that others have taken. The blueprint is there, and then you have to put your own little spin on it. But following on with this question here, Sir Robert, what skills do you believe are overvalued or undervalued right now? Like, where are people spending maybe too much time, and then maybe where are people not spending enough time to learn something?
If I were to say being overvalued or undervalued, I'm not going to talk about the end product per se. I'm going to talk about the process. I think people are spending too much time on learning and never actually doing it. Now, let me explain. A lot of people go into things and a lot of people want to be things. But, and there's this adage that actually runs wild. Failure is part of the process or so, but people fail so much that it becomes the entire process. And it's really annoying when you have something to do, but when you want, I'm not talking about the skills per se, I'm coming to that. But when you want to really start something or when you want to really do, you spend so much time over analyzing things, thinking it from A to Z, while someone who perhaps has half your knowledge has already tweaked it to his model and is making the box he wants to make or making the impact he wants to make and, running wild with it. So I think apart from the skills itself, the time of learning those skills or the act of doing them instead of simply thinking about them running, I think is where a lot of people who get in this space spend too much time. People are afraid of losses, people are afraid of some things, but, which leads them to never even trying itself. If you want to now go into the positions I think are undervalued, it's one thing, research. Listen, the crypto market is too wide. There's NFTs, there's DeFi. Even when you go to DeFi, there's social fi, there's mid caps, micro caps. There are web dexes, derivatives. It's literally there's the metaverse. It's literally everything. And every single day, a new cryptocurrency project is being pulled out, a new DeFi project is being worked on, ideas are being brought into life. So the thing that will get you so far, and when I mean research, I don't mean just research, just researching in the protocols, research to find the next extent and all that. I mean research in doing or perfecting whatever you are doing, as the case may be. Not just research in trying to find the new cryptocurrency project, but research on how to advance and better already existing ones. I think that ability is what this space lacks to a very, very large extent, because as everybody is focused on new thing, and yeah, we are degens, we are gamblers, we like the next shiny thing, and we like throwing money at it. But I really think research never goes out of style, because in every opportunity, in every model, both in Web3, in Web2, all around DeFi NFTs, you have to know what you are doing. You have to know how to advance in a certain position. You have to know how to find out ways to tweak something or reverse engineer a model to be better suited for users and yourself. So yeah, if you ask me which part of the cryptocurrency needs a little bit more attention, it's basically research. And basically, if we get that down, I think a whole lot more work will be done than is already going on.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, a couple things I'd call out. I think one, there's no better time to learn than a bear market, right? Because, number one, like, you have time, right? There's not as many great trades to make, right? So what do? You bridge over to an L2 where gas fees are cheaper, cents on the dollar. You start testing protocols, use another wallet that's, not, holding all your assets. But, even case in point with Friendtech, like, I'm not going to give you my POV on Friendtech long term, but like, I joined purely from a research standpoint. I wanted, to your point, I wanted to reverse engineer the platform. I wanted to be forced into a situation that had limitations. And I wanted to like see if that research could then generate new ideas or thinking that I could then bring to places like, Twitter, Discord, Telegram, etc. So I think that's one thing I would say. The other thing I would call out, just because I have a lot of friends down in Africa, and a lot of times they're asking me, like, to your point, the industry's so white. I agree. I definitely agree. They're like, how do I get into this industry? And I think a lot of them are approaching it. And this isn't just Africa. This is a lot of countries. I think a lot of folks are approaching it the wrong way, right? Because for a lot of these companies, they're very focused on like, where is the highest value customer, right? And so they're looking at places like Singapore and Japan and London and things like that, right? So I think going for these community manager roles is doing folks a disservice. I think, again, what I would be doing is exactly kind of what you're talking about, which is like self-learning, right? How do I become a dev relations person? How do I become a developer? And it doesn't have to be Solidity development. You can be a front end or back end dev. But I think, again, like, there are certain roles where there is not a giant talent pool, where folks are desperately looking for these people. There's no less than 1,000 people asking to be a community manager every day, right? So hone in on those areas where there's a lot of opportunity and less competition. And I do think that in general, like, that's going to be your path to success in getting into one of these companies,
That actually runs well. Sorry, I called whoever was about to speak of, but I really needed to put in a word, and that's exactly what I teach, or what I used to teach anyway, when I was really actually into information marketing. There's a particular quote I used to say. Every industry has a market cap, and the higher the market cap in your industry, you need more exceptional skills to be regarded as the best, or regarded as one of the good ones. The lower the market cap in a particular industry, that is, the less discovered it is. You need less skill to be able to stand out. You don't really need to be that exceptional. But if you enter a market that is not tapped at all, you are the best by default. So it really puts a lot into perspective about what you said about going for positions that are not really taken, or that are not really wide, because the skills needed are the skills needed are not as easy to get as the other ones, like community manager, moderator, and all that. It actually puts a lot into perspective. But also, when people are going for, and I want to, because you said something about people are going into these things about places with high returns and all that, Singapore, high valued customers. Listen, it's a double-edged sword, and you might be inclined to agree with me because for the fact that we really haven't had that how do I put it, that big DeFi innovation, let's say in Africa, that big DeFi widespread and all that, it literally tells you that the places you can even get a shitload of untapped liquidity is right on top of us. It's simply because we haven't really entered the space, simply because most of us haven't really, understood or gotten that knowledge about what it's about. It means that it's less saturated here. Let's use a better term. And I feel like, well, going forward, it's the whole principles of Web3, the whole idea behind it anyway is continuous evolving and innovation. So I think going forward, that's actually going to change. But I really wanted to chip that in instead too, in addition to what you said.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I think, one thing I'll say, I think a lot of people think about like, what's the opportunity cost, right? If I spend this time learning and I don't spend this time trading or working, is my end result as valuable or not, right? And here's what I'll say, like because I've seen this both at Amazon, media companies I've worked at, and even in crypto, I think a lot of companies right now pay what's called in-market rates, right? So they go, okay, what is the average salary in Nigeria for this position? I'm going to hire someone in Nigeria because it's going to cost me, 70% less than it would in the US or Ukraine or, pretty much anywhere. I think that's going to change. And what I mean by that is at Hashflow, for all the folks that I employ on the marketing team globally, I pay them US salary. And the reason I pay them US salary is a couple things. One, I think it's the ethical thing to do. Two, I'm a strong believer in your value should not be dictated or aligned with where you were born and the circumstances you were born into. I just don't think that that's right. And I think I know that what I'm doing is an anomaly, but what's happening is these folks that I'm hiring, I'm paying them, maybe 2-3x their in-market rate. And you know what's happening? One, loyalty. Two, passion. Three, they're working harder because they know that they can't find another opportunity like this. And then four, competition can't poach them because they're not willing to pay what I'm paying, right? And so the other thing that I would kind of double down on is, again, listen, full transparency, I come from very little money. My family literally had nothing when I was a kid. And, I do acknowledge my white privilege, but, I hustled my butt off my entire career to kind of get where I am without having, the connections or resources that some of my peers did. And so I think, again, it's just so important. And I'll give folks a little bit of alpha. So when we launch the Hashverse, which is coming very, very soon, and the reason that's delayed is because honestly, we've decided to up level a lot of things and honestly just make it more accessible to everyone, including normies. But we're going to have a section in there, and this is free, anyone can join. We're going to have a section in there called Daily Dexter, and it's exactly what you're talking about, which is every single day there's a different quest that basically does things like teaches you financial terms, both TradFi and DeFi, helps you understand candlestick patterns, helps you understand, all these things in a very simplistic, easy way. And my goal here is that even for folks that don't join, the Battle Royale and are active traders, maybe I can turn folks that are, passionate about DeFi into knowledgeable traders, right? And then again, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if you're starting with $10 or $1,000. Give yourself a couple of years and you can turn that into something really meaningful and you can start to, prove people wrong. So that's, just a little alpha for folks. But I think, what I want to pivot into is, obviously, yes, I discovered you at Arbitrum. I'm very familiar with your emojis and a lot of friends in those communities. But I have found in general that I think your research tends to be a lot more robust and a lot more thorough than most people's. So I guess as someone that understands good research better than most, how would you describe what good research actually consists of? I know obviously, the sources matter, but I think your approach and process is probably a little bit different and candidly better than most.
There's a little spice we add in, which we call sentiment. It's the gut feeling. Let me put it that way. It's the thing that comes from experience. Once it got to a point. Yeah, I have some of my students actually on this platform, and they will tell you.
Hey.
Yeah, yeah. I had this was, let's say, 2020, 2021. the full DeFi summer, Uniswap, Cake. I think if you were in the space by then, you would understand how money was flying um in between different DeFi ecosystems. I think there's literally a sort of experience, and I'll get to the main part of the question, but this is only a part of it. There's literally the sort of experience or the sort of analysis that comes from just what you have been doing. Let's this fundamental analysis, this technical, and the third one, analysis of vibes, or in a more better term, sentimental analysis, which is just that little thing at the back. You know, when sometimes they would give a coin to me, a token, and they would literally type a few stats, and I would just look at it, one glance, and tell you, oh yeah, that's going to do well, or no, that's not going to do well. And 90% of the time, it plays out. You know, they even suspected me of knowing devs, and I didn't even know any dev at that point. I was literally just researching and was just honing my skills through and through. So when it comes to research per se, I basically analyze things. I basically analyze things based on general crypto market sentiment. Yes, we know the market cap, total value locked, FDV, community, and all that. Yes, but there are some things that aren't evident on a chart. There's just that feel you can get around the project. You know, if it's a right move, or if it's a right fit for you, or if it's something. And this doesn't even apply to research, even in jobs per se. For like you who's been in the corporate side of this, you know, there are some jobs you know that it just fits. It just it's going to be good for you. And you know, before even entering some that, this might not be too good for me and all that. It's just that thing that comes with experience, which you know. So apart from all the analysis everybody does, I feel like the gut feeling we underrate it a lot. People, and you can call it anything, analysis of vibes, intuition, and all that and all that. But that's really after all your analysis and all that. That should be the key factor. Really what
Yeah. I'm
sets you
going
up.
to give everyone a little alpha because I think you're 100% right, and I have the data point to prove it. But I think like one thing I would say is you have to look at multiple sentiment, right? Like you have to look at what's the crypto native sentiment, right? Because we all know we're just swashing tokens around amongst ourselves. I think you have to look at macro sentiment, but I would even dig deeper into that and look at it as macro sentiment on either a continental or country level. And what I mean by that is macro sentiment in the US is obviously very negative. We know why that is. It's a very controlled country in terms of communications, even though people don't think it is. I worked in media. I can promise you it is. But you go to places like Japan right now, and the country level is completely different, right? They are pushing large TradFi, Nintendo, mom and pop shops into this industry because what they're saying is, we don't care about the power of greenback, right? What we care about is gaining revenue for our country, for our economy, and we is also going to help our economy, right? So I think that's important. The data point, which I think you're going to find fascinating, is when I was at Amazon, there are marketing tools specifically used for marketing to measure things like sentiment across different platforms, sentiment across different launches, things like that. They're very expensive. They're not accessible. When I was at Arbitrum and even here, I've been using some of these platforms. Usually the startup version or the light version. But one of the things that I always ask in those meetings is, who are your other crypto customers, right? And what I expect to hear is competitors and things like that. It's not what I hear. What I usually hear is names of crypto native VCs. And so what they are doing is they are literally looking at sentiment across the market. They're looking at sentiment across NFT collections. They're looking at sentiment across tokens and projects. And they are literally using that as another kind of, let's call it, signal in terms of where they should be investing or what they should be looking at. So I think you hit the nail on the head. One thing I'd love to just follow up on is like when you're looking for sources, right? Like hard sources online. I think all of us know that native publications don't really fact check. Shout out to DL News. I think the DeFi Llama News team, which is actually a lot of crypto native reporters, is actually doing a pretty great job. And they actually did a piece about like why the industry needs to fact check. But like, how do you typically vet your sources? How do you determine what's legitimate, what's what to trust, what not to trust?
I think the best answer to this question would be past records and experience. Yep. if it's easy to, it's not really that easy to vet a source that is new per se, new in all ramifications of the market. But before I actually trust one, I look into what they have analyzed or what they have given note of in the past, because there's a lot of misinformation in this crypto market. I'm sure you are at least well aware of that. So before I even get into different sources, I look at their past calls or their past experiences, their past records per se in any single given field, and I cross-reference it with what I find against other people who reported the same thing, and then cross-check that again with what actually happened. So I could basically find a line. I could basically find the most perfect one, so to speak, and then boom, I use that as one of my first checks. As you said, DeFi Llama is actually very, very good. I think DeFi Llama token terminal, when it comes to L2s, L2 beats, these are ones that these are ones per se that I have tried, and I have actually checked it across, and it tallies. Most people, it's recently, I got to know that some crypto news or analytics or stuff like that, they actually they actually take payments to twist the information to favor them or something. I think it happens in almost every company. But yeah, it was just I had to understand that, and then I had to basically be a bit more thorough. So the thing, how I basically vet my sources, again, it's based on the information I receive across different sources. I aggregate them with what actually happened, and then get my facts and all that. It helps me basically make a more refined research.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, a couple things I'd call out. One, why did we create this show? I think for me, a big reason is kind of exactly what you're talking about, which is like, I don't trust most news sources. I hope most people know this, but podcasts aren't fact checked. They're full of shill. And then in addition to that, I don't think people know this, but a lot of times these podcast hosts are on the cap tables, right? So when you hear them talking about a token, or you hear them bringing on someone for a 3-hour, talk, I mean, they're incentivized, right? They're trying to drive awareness for that project. They're trying to get people to buy that token because that's going to benefit their bags. And I just think, again, I think that's so unethical. So what we do here on this show, just so everybody knows, is, you guys know my data background. I worked at Amazon. Like, I've actually vetted the top 100 traders and researchers, not just based on follower count. And I do believe the sweet spot is 10 to 30K usually, based on what I've seen. But we actually look at like, what tokens are they talking about, how those tokens performed. And so if you look at kind of past episodes of the show, like we had Henry, I'm sure you know Henry Vu, he was on, we had Nifty on. These are guys that know what they're doing. These are guys that aren't shilling 100 tokens a day. And my hope is that by bringing folks like you on every week, we can start to create a source of truth and a source of like knowledge that's going to actually help people grow. The other thing I would add is I think newsletters are a great source of information. Again, I think you need to really do your due diligence on kind of who to trust, who knows what they're doing. But I do think a lot of these trader newsletters are quite good. And then the other thing I would just call out is like, when it comes to podcasts, there's different podcasts for different audiences. I'll throw out a few that I listen to. I like Uncommon Core a lot with Hasu. They just get very technical very quickly. Again, I just don't find there to be really any shill in there. I also love Unchained with Laura Shin. Laura Shin even opens her podcast with like no shill, kind of all fill, which I think is a great, strategic move for her. And then I've honestly really loved a lot of these new Blockworks podcasts, because what they're doing, they hired someone from Wall Street Journal, but what they're doing is they're creating content that bridges the worlds of TradFi and DeFi. And so there's a lot of great information on both sides. And then I think to your point earlier around like, what do you research? I think they're doing kind of double duty for you. So, just calling those out for you. Yeah.
Definitely a good breakdown, Andrew. I do want to ask you, Sir Robert, we ran a little poll yesterday, and we asked our community, what were they interested in learning about? And 40% of them said crypto education. They wanted to hear your takes on that. So I kind of want to ask you as well, just jumping into question 4, what does fundamental analysis, like what role does that play in your overall trading approach?
Literally 80 to 70%, 70 to 80% of my research is based on fundamental analysis. And sorry. I do believe in DeFi per se, everything. The market reacts to news a lot. You could even say recently it's gone a bit low because I know if you guys were obviously if you guys were here during the whole Dogecoin Shiba and all that, you could know how a single tweet from Elon Musk could literally pump any single coin at that point. You couldn't see that on a chart. A chart cannot tell you that is going to happen. It was basically pure fundamental analysis and how fast you could react to said news or said analysis of that particular token that determined your profitability during that particular run. So when you talk about the importance of FA, it's in my trading game. I know it's literally quite a lot because honestly, come to think of it, every single thing we do in research is actually fundamental analysis in a way. It's just fundamental analysis in tokens, fundamental analysis in marketing, fundamental analysis in all things. It's basically you carrying, getting or vetting information from different sources and using it to predict a particular future or a particular scenario which you want to be profitable of. In economics, because I actually have a master's degree in economics. We actually talk like from the aspect of adaptive or rational expectations, where in adaptive expectation, we use this past to predict future analysis, where we look at things that happened in the past and use them to predict the future. If Bitcoin we came to crypto and then started calling it historical analysis. If a bull halving occurs every 4 years, there's a bull run that proceeds after that, things like that. And then rational expectation, which is analysis based on every single information available to you. So all these things are still a part of fundamental analysis in a way. And it's really, which brings me to another point. Honestly, the study of economics as a whole would greatly, greatly help you if you want to understand the crypto market, because honestly, most of the terms used here are the same: production, consumer, utility, demand, supply, every single thing, scarcity, every single thing literally denotes the real yield, emissions, and all the things you talk about, dividends. They are literally here, but we use different terms to simply explain them. So if you asked me, as you asked me rather, the importance of fundamental analysis, I would say yes, very, very high, and it's very, very useful in what I do. I would pick it over technical in this point, although the forex and the futures guys would obviously disagree with me, but yeah, that's how it works in my field.
And Robert, one thing I just wanted to say, because I think it's important, like as someone who's been doing marketing for 20 years, I don't think enough people understand the impact marketing can have, positively on a token. And I think what I mean by that is I think you have to be just as critical of marketing, if not more, than you are of the research, right? And what I mean by that is this notion of like narrative writing, where there are certain projects, folks are going to be very familiar with after I say this, where you're seeing constant press releases in crypto news, constant press releases in the tech crunches of the world. And a lot of those partnerships are paid for. They are fully paid for, and then they position them like they're the choice of that company, or like they're the next mass adoption. And again, I look at that as just honestly market manipulation, but in a different way. We don't do that at Hashflow. I don't do that. I think it's unethical. Sorry, it's my coffee delivery. But again, I think you just have to really, really criticize everything, including press releases.
Coffee delivery, man, that's an important delivery. You gotta definitely focus on that. So Sir Robert, are you kind of saying that TA is overrated in your opinion?
I really have to be careful. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to trap me, but I'm still going to maintain that. Yeah, I mean, come on. We're all degens here. I mean, that's literally the name of the show. How are you plotting lines on a token when the dev doesn't have marketing funds? What? And you're telling me there's the rising wedge, I don't know what the other blocks and what these people say. It doesn't. I do know in core DeFi, yeah. I really, really am of the opinion that technical analysis is a tad bit overrated, simply because of there's a whole lot going on in the background that we do not know about, that most of the retail per se do not know about. So instead of trying to predict something based on lines, predict based on what you know exactly, what you have sourced out from different news sources and vetted. The devs or the connections you've built over time, because it's that joke was actually made from a true story. I and my friends were researching this particular token, and one of us managed to contact the dev, and he said his marketing wallet is zero. But his TA was one of my friend's TA was expecting there was this pattern that they called that was expecting the token to go, and we're like, how? I mean, no one knows about it. And as Andrew said, marketing is basically very, very important for it's. I feel it's the bedrock of even any token because you can build the best product, you can build the best shit, but if people do not know about it or if people do not relate to it, or at least a personal or user-centric level, I don't think it's really going to go very far. So in Degenomics, this was basically a very, very good example. And for me, anyway, if you bring any trader, trader, all these the forex guys or the crypto futures guys and all that, they may tell the perpetual guys, they may tell you a different thing. But yeah, in my analysis, TA is really overrated in the core, or rather in the grand scheme of things.
I agree with you. And I think what I would add to that is listen, you have three types of companies in this industry. You have academically led, developer led, some of which come from native, some of which come from big tech, and then you have business led, aka a 360 business team. I do think more and more folks in the kind of that academically led sector and maybe native developer led sector are starting to realize the importance of marketing in all of this. And how do I know that? Like after Arbitrum, I had 25 companies in the first week reach out, and these are all massive L1s, L2s, things like that. I chose Hashflow because we fall into bucket 3, business led, right? 360 business team. But I think again, like marketing has such a stronger impact on this stuff than the average person realizes. The other thing I would just add that's like really important that I don't think companies talk about enough, or I guess I should say projects, and I don't think people research enough is unlocks, right? Because a massive investor unlock or a massive founder unlock can have a huge impact, on a token. And so I think sometimes you just have to think about that or know when those unlocks are, because candidly, that's also an opportunity for you. An unlock is happening next week. You assume there's going to be a massive dip because you were able to figure out how big that unlock is. And then you're jumping in NFA DYOR, but like, that's an opportunity for people,
Yeah, exactly. With markets, like usually, I think was it CZ that said this, or it was like every dip is an opportunity or something like that. Yeah, unlocks are basically a very, very big part of my. I think for this, I use CryptoRank.io to basically search most of those again for those very tools. Um, Whenever tokens actually want to go through big unlocks, most likely you can predict it and sell before then, and then stack up if it's a fundamentally good coin in the long run, or basically abandon your investments if you see no long-term potential. I really agree with you there. And again, the marketing and how this news is presented to people too also plays a vital role in how these projects function and how they go in the long run. Yeah.
Yep.
100%. Trying to be conscious of time because, we're all having fun, so the clock is flying. We got a lot of questions to go. Sir Robert, you talk about wealth creation, and that's something that basically everyone on Earth is interested in. What are your tips to actually make this a reality short-term and long-term?
Well, when it comes to wealth creation, the first thing that comes to mind is the second thing I said. The second thing I said in line with that, which is skill acquisition. You can't build wealth if you don't have a skill to make money from. I think this is wealth 101, or this is money 101 per se. In order to basically create it's like you want bees, you want insects and all that. You want these things that fly around. You basically create a garden, or you basically create beautiful places that will lure them in. It's the same thing with wealth. You can't really want something from an empty surrounding. You have to first build it and envision your skills, build your value to a particular extent, build your repute, and then money comes to you. I do not feel we have to chase money per se, because I feel like if you chase something, that implies that it's running away from you. You get what I'm trying to say. You first build a build a situation, and in this case, it might be a brand, it might be a connection, it might be a skill, per se, but you build something that is going to attract it to you. Get something that people will pay you for, and then find a way to monetize it later on with any different strategy you want. So in terms of both short term and long term, you can pick out different things, but the first and most important will literally be getting a skill, a payable skill, and something that people can actually pay you to do, and basically you can exchange money for. And it's also not really too time consuming for you. I think once you find that particular balance, you're basically well on your way. It's not really easy, because there are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of although even though it's frankly, I believe, and this is me, I believe it's easier to make money now than compared to recent times. I mean, come on, even Elon, someone can literally just sit down at home, clock in every single day, and try to make money from just Elon's ad revenue. Just by showing up. It's really been broken down to its simplest form. There are literally so many opportunities as long as you have an internet connection that implies that you can actually make money. But the higher you want to make, or the higher amount of wealth you want to save or you want to create for yourself, the further you need to go in skills. Your skills are, for me, a direct representation of how much money you can control. The more you know how to do, the more you can get paid for. So basically, by increasing that, you can basically go well as far as you want, really, in any field. And it's not just about making money again. Again, I study economics, so wealth creation and finance is something I'm really passionate in talking about. It's not really about only making it at times, but knowing how to manage it can be found. I even wrote a thread on this. Knowing how to manage it can be found more important. Risk management, portfolio rebalancing, budgeting, finding out the particular mix that works for you and following strict financial principles. I feel like you can make the wealth with skills, but you sustain it with actual workings and with actual, techniques. So yeah, you can get you in, but the rest you need more knowledge and piecing yourself up, and you get the right mix. It always works if
And a
you
little
learn from.
alpha, Robert, because you brought this up, like the Wi-Fi connection. Like I understand Wi-Fi is expensive, not everybody has a good connection. I'll give you two hacks. Hack number one: if there's a Starbucks in your area, go sit outside the Starbucks. You don't have to order coffee. You can connect to their Wi-Fi. There you go. Hack number two: find someone. It could be a local business that has good Wi-Fi. Ask the bartender if you can give them $20, and now you have their Wi-Fi password, and you got great free Wi-Fi. So there you go.
100%. They say you attract the things that you fear. I'm terrified of generational wealth. But the next question that I have for you, Sir Robert, is, how do you know when to exit a trade? When do you know to cut your losses and that you have to move on to the next thing?
I think foreign guys call this RR, and I do have one per se, but it's followed by a quote instead. And I think it's a quote I made up because I just really started reading about it. But again, as I understood in the beginning of this show, nothing is really new under the sun. Everything has done before. But I said this, and after looking at a particular project which I invested in, name withheld, of course. But I just sat down and said, it doesn't make sense to be loyal to a project that isn't loyal to you. I don't know if that really makes a couple of sense, but projects who don't listen to their users, they don't try to innovate with the times, they don't try to basically make anything new or make the environment safe for new investors to flow in. It's not a project you should be holding. Once I see the fundamentals of a token dwindling down, and in line with market sentiment again, it's not really based on a percent per se. It's not really based on okay, if the loss is 20%, I'll remove. No. I basically my thesis, my convictions are usually long term. I don't really like for all the DGN I do, yeah. I don't really like it, but we've all been in the Telegram trenches, let's put it like that, looking for the next extent and all that. But for long-term convictions, because I feel like these are the places you build wealth. Imagine holding things like BTC since its inception and all that. I really, really feel like the fundamentals are dwindling down. A token can go as low as minus 80%, and you can still stack up more. I think CZ did this, and that was how he went big on Bitcoin. I think when I was reading about him, yeah, he went big on Bitcoin, sold the house and everything, and got his major shine through. I think not to be Not sorry, taking lessons from that. It's really the case is not to be loyal to a project that isn't loyal to you. And if you see the fundamentals of a project dwindling over time, you know it's time to leave it. And it's not really even you being wicked because a lot of people talk about backholding, oh, we're a community. And I mean it's your money. Let's be real here. It's your investment. It's money you worked for. You're putting it in a project. So if they don't deliver, feel free to exit. And this that's basically how I plan mine. You know, it can basically go down, but if I know that okay, my fundamental analysis backed on research, back the fundamental analysis points this thing as something. Oh, I'm back to personal conviction, of course. If everything is literally yeah in the right amounts, if it dips, I will even add more and ride it. And if I see that the project is not really listening, you know, it's all up and look for the next big thing, more or less.
Yeah. I think Robert, like one thing I would say is I think good projects think of their members as owners, not customers, right? And then I think again, like transparency is huge. So like one thing we do, I posted a link. Shout out to my boy Young in the audience. But I posted a link to our newsletter because what we do as a project is every single week we actually provide updates in marketing, updates in product, updates in engineering, just literally to say, okay, we know you're owners, not customers. You don't have the time to pay attention to everything. So let's just tell you exactly what happened this week and let you have some visibility into that. I want to pivot now. You're running an experiment called the Ewan's Effect Initiative, which I like to refer to affectionately as Ripping with Robert. Can you run us through that a little bit? Like, what are you doing? What's your goal with that?
The Ewan's Effect Initiative. I really, as the name implies, yeah, it's an experiment. So I really, really shouldn't say much about it. But it's really, I know, but it's really, really at the base. The much I can tell you is that it's literally aimed at education and financial freedom, more or less, both for anybody looking to enter Web3 or basically anybody who is already in Web3 and making a killing. It's a home for all. You know, it's something I literally plan to take global per se when a lot of the times and a lot of other external factors line in. So yeah, I think I don't really want to say much on it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I would have to
I love it, man.
It's going to be well, anyhow, it's going you're going to be the first to know. Anyway, you and Andrew. Depending on how
My man. How can folks I love you. How can folks get involved? Like if folks want to be a part of it, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh yeah, during the course of launch of what I expect to do, there are literally going to be forms and everything. I think anyone, if you can see this on my bio, you can do well to follow it and just keep notifications and keep and be updated. Because once it starts and once everything starts getting into motion, there are going to be basically forms. It's not even everyone that's going to be accepted because the plans for it are really quite big, and I don't really want it to get as oversaturated as it can be. I'm trying to bring something new to Web3 space at large, something that combines the right amount of finance, the right amount of education, and the right amount of wealth creation and skill acquisition, two all in one. So people are actually going to get listed through it, filling forms, and then we vet you based on your experience, what you are looking for, and allocate you at the places we feel will be right for you perfectly in the whole of Web3. And so, yeah, when it runs out, we'll be known.
I like it. A little bit of mystery. Make sure you're following Sir Robert. Some alpha is going to be coming down very soon. So Robert, you've been around a while. You know a few things. What barometer have you used to determine where we exactly are at any given market cycle? People think we're trending bullish. People think we're trending bearish. How do you kind of make sense of where we actually are?
This is actually a very funny question because I do something that I call this. It's my personal name. It's called opposite analysis. Let's put it like that. It's where as people are bearish, you know that market is going to turn bullish, and as people are bullish and people are happy and the euphoria is at all-time high, you know that what's going to come next is going to crash the markets. It's funny, but it's actually worked. And you see the signs per se. I think it was Warren Buffett. He's made this popular quote about selling when you are greedy. I mean, sorry, was it investing when you're greedy or something like that? basically, if everybody is too happy at a particular cycle, you know that okay, it's going to tank in the future because at that moment people's profits are high, and when people have profits, what do they do? Sell. So you know that during a particular moment, there's going to be a landslide. And you know when people are low, when people you know that their bags are down. And I like this. I like this one. This is actually a normal quote. It's like when you are rock bottom, the only literal way you can go is up. Because I mean, what else is which other direction is there for you to go in? So when people are basically sad about the markets and it's very depressing, people's bags are down. You simply that's the point. I think Andrew said this too when it's in a bear market or something, you basically hone in your skills, research checking, and find out the top pickers. And this is and it's something I've posted too. But in bear markets, a tip I always used to pull ahead is find out the tokens that stray from BTC's dominance. BTC has a very huge control of the market, almost 50%. So whenever there's a tip of some sort, you basically look at the tokens that are resisting this and have some sort of sorry and have some sort of strength, key into it, look at the ones that line into a particular narrative or the trending one, or one you think is going to basically be a game changer, lock in and keep your market in check. So beyond fundamental analysis and beyond technical analysis, when it comes to knowing my cycles, I use sentimental analysis and check the general feel of CT at large and then make my decision. And something I like to say and something that's the truth. Web3 is growing, DeFi is growing, it's evolving. It's not, the institutions are going to keep pouring into this space. They are basically going to keep investing. VCs are going to keep doing their rounds, raising money. So, like, it's a ride in itself, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So, as far as liquidity go and apart, as far as everything goes, I do not think we are going to see a very disastrous bear market like the last one. Because this is literally child's play compared to 2017 and all that. I don't think we are going to see that because of the large institutional inputs we have here. But yes, it's a business cycle. There are going to be periods of boom and there are going to be periods of depression and all that. But I feel like looking at the scale of things, we are literally on a very large, a very macro uptrend, so to speak. So we know that in the very long run, prices now are going to be way higher than prices in the future rather are going to be way higher than what they are now. And we just make the most of it and be as profitable as we can be.
Definitely fair take, sir. And I guess my follow-up to that, is what kind of predictions do you have for the next bull run? What are you kind of expecting to see ignite us and get us moving?
If I were to do this based on historical analysis, I would say the existence of something shiny. How do I put this? It's when shitcoins came and ruled the market for a particular amount of time. Elon Musk was tweeting about Dogecoin, Shiba, and all that. It was the existence of something new that propelled the bull market. Shitcoins weren't really a part. They didn't hold such large market share then. So when all these coins, Safe Moon, Shiba, all these shit coins, per se, meme coins that nobody expected to run, when they came, it literally sparked an entire bull run across boards, and everybody was making money from almost every single DJ trade they put money in. If you recall the times, it's always been like that. If you go back now into this happened again with the whole metaverse news when Facebook announced their investment in the metaverse and all that, we could see game fee and metaverse tokens pumping. You could know Axie Infinity then. There was Sand, there was Decentralized. There were a lot of tokens that were related with metaverse that was coming. So I think looking at it from a macro perspective, the existence of something new that does well will literally give you an insight on what is going to ignite a particular type of run. And right now we have what social fear on our hands with the inception of friend tech. So for now, I think that lining this into the next 2024 Bitcoin halving might inspire. We might actually see a very good run in social fee tokens. We are already seeing a bit, but over time, I feel like this one is actually going to be a very, very strong narrative because it's also doing the work of onboarding and it's attracting fresh liquidity, which I'm talking about from web people. You can see other celebrities signing up, people that don't even know how the crypto space works, per se, but it's literally bringing fresh liquidity. So things like this help support on the market. And like what I said, it's literally growing. We are in a constant macro uptrend, and a lot of people keep coming. And so far, about the fact that a lot of you can go to a restaurant and people would literally call crypto a scam, or people will ask you what is Bitcoin. That literally tells you our catchphrase. We are so early. We're always early, depending on every single thing. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're earlier than most people think. I mean, I'll give folks a little alpha. So, how do you outpace those big announcements? Pretty simple. Most big tech, most big traffic. I'll give you the Amazon example. They'll have blogs, right, or newsletters. Sign up for those newsletters because oftentimes they'll push that announcement out there before it hits mass PR. And even Amazon, for example, has like a Web3 developer blog, which you can follow. And same thing, like you'll find out about, this partnership or that partnership or this focus typically before it hits press.
Thousand.
Yeah, I think you call off a little bit. I think I really didn't get the last part of what you said.
Oh yeah, I think we're having some Wi-Fi issues. So I was saying, hopefully you can hear me. Alan, hold on one sec. What I was saying was, if you want to outpace, the press announcements, which candidly are what usually move, macro sentiment, you can subscribe to newsletters and blogs, right? So for example, like at Amazon, there's a Web3 developer blog. You just add it to your RSS feed, and then you'll see that stuff hit before it hits, TechCrunch, because usually you have what's called an embargo with folks where they're not allowed to talk about it until a certain time. And then the other one I mentioned is newsletters. Sometimes like AWS or whoever it is will have a newsletter. So again, you may find that stuff out before most other people, and so that way you're early.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was even said again. Newsletters, Substacks, from basically reputable people and reputable companies and businesses and business corporations. These actually give an insight to what is happening at the back end or at the background before it hits major major news publication sites. Yeah, that's actually a very, very valid research tool for that. Thank you for bringing it to everybody's notice as well.
So Robert, can you hear me? Am I coming through now?
Yeah, I can.
All right, we've just got a couple more questions. We got some NFT PFPs in the audience, so we do have to ask this for them. The NFT market seems to be at a bottom. How should investors approach the NFT market moving forward for the remainder of the year and maybe into next year as well?
The NFT market is a very very funny one. It's for me. Yeah, maybe it's because I have a lot of experience in DeFi, but the NFT market moves quite funny, and it's it makes me remember a very particular incident where I think my girl asked me on an investment advice on an NFT last year, December or so, and she lost her money because of me. And I literally didn't hear the end of that for a while. But let's put it, I've basically, because my knowledge has grown in it. Yeah, the NFT market, it's, how do I put this? It's less liquid than the DeFi market. That's the best. I think there were a bunch of celebrities that literally entered it at the top. There was Eminem, there was Neymar, there was Logan Paul. A lot of people bought these NFTs, and they are really, really worth shits now. Or it's because people can't really place a value on it. It depends. Art is a very funny concept. It may mean much to you, but it may not mean much to the next person. So when you try to approach NFTs, yeah, it's quite different from DeFi because you have to make the same art. You have to translate the same art that is valuable to you, equally as valuable to the next guy. And it's in that process that some NFT projects actually make the mistake because they don't really get their branding right. They don't really get their marketing right. They don't know how to make the audience relate to it on a personal level. And, it shows in their floor price. So when you look at NFTs, yeah, rather than DeFi that is more product centric, that is more utility centric per se, NFTs are more of a question of perceived value. it's the amount of value it has to another person will determine how much will determine how liquid it is, per se, because it's not really as easily convertible to cash and all that as the rest of them. So the NFT obviously, like all cycles, there's a period of depression and boom. So I'm not, as long as people still active, as you said yourself, we have NFT PFPs here. As long you actually are one yourself. So as long as people actively still believe in this, or it gives them a sense of identity in the crypto space, and as long as more people can relate to that community feeling, NFTs will never really go away. They are literally already, but they are literally DeFi projects that are based on NFTs too. So it's literally eating too deep to fail, and it's gotten too big to fail. I just feel like right now, for people who invest in NFTs per se, they really need to go and they need to sit back and learn about the type of things that will incite demand in whatever in whatever NFTs they're offering, or whatever NFTs they want to research on. You look at it from more of a value perspective and be like, okay, if I were this person, what would make me want to actually, if I was in the presence of buying, what would they do to make me actually want to buy into their product, or be part of them? Some people just did it for the community feel. I know Bored Ape and CryptoPunks took this initiative, initially. All people everybody wanted to be an ape, everybody wanted to feel part of the community and all that. That's usually the base. The base of NFTs is identity. And because they're non-fungible, obviously, it's one of one. Only one exists in the whole world, and it can't be replicated. So I think based off that, NFTs NFTs boomed, but over time they basically lost that feel. And maybe we started seeing a lot more cash grabs, a lot more a lot more rubbish in the space, really. But if people want to actually go into NFTs back and make a killing out of it, this is not the moment to start spending your money on any PFP, as far as I'm concerned. This is my opinion, of course. You need to sit back, envision what is going to incite demand, or what will make it valuable to another person, and then make your analysis based on that, on whether you should actually buy, whether you should just keep learning and studying different protocols. And even, if you have enough experience, move to the creator economy, move to the creator side of things. You know how NFTs work. You have basically been an investor in them. You've basically bought them. All right. Try to make steps, build connections with the right people, and actually enter it, but not as a consumer this time, but as a producer of these NFTs, and try to push your idea into others and try to make it something that works for you and works in general. So yeah, that's my input on NFTs.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with with everything you said. I mean, like one quick piece of alpha for folks. If you go to nftgo.io/analytics/market.over-overview, there's actually a pretty nice dashboard, and I'm looking at it right now. I mean, right now market sentiment is cold. It's been cold for I think the past like 8 months, from what I remember. There's 4,200 buyers, 4,900 sellers. And then again, as we know, that's multiple wallet addresses. So you take that down a little bit, and you're really left with maybe 2,000 people buying NFTs right now. So clearly, there's not a lot of demand. I think my play with NFTs has been, at least in this market, I look at it more to your point of what communities that I want to be a part of, and I'm basically in a sense getting a Soho House membership for a tenth of the price. And then eventually, if I don't find the value, hopefully it goes up, but you never know. The other thing I wanted to click on that you mentioned is the celebrity piece. So for anyone that doesn't know, I personally represented celebrities for about 10 years at a company called CAA. And I was doing, a lot of their digital strategy, corp dev, bringing them onto Facebook in the early days. And I have to say, like, celebrities are late. And I think most folks know that. But the reason they're late is because in the industry of Hollywood, there's not a lot of digital natives or folks that are very digitally experienced. It's usually someone that just is young, that was running social, and they get promoted. And so you have to always think of them as almost someone that's just late to the market in general. I think the outlier there is folks that have someone in-house kind of doing this stuff for them. So for example, like my old team, one of my coworkers now runs Will Smith's company, right? Or my main client for years was Justin Bieber, and so his head of BD is very digitally savvy, right? But again, I'm always a little weary of looking at celebrities as first movers, because I don't think that they are. So anyways, well, listen, I want to be respectful of your time. First off, thank you for coming. It's always wonderful to get to chat with you again, my friend. But what are your plans for the next 6 months? Like, where's the majority of your focus going to be steered?
I think for me right now, I don't know, but I've proven what I needed to do in my field, which is basically research. I was basically research. I want to test something new. I basically want to either go into the corporate side of things as regards cryptocurrencies or start my own agency. Yeah, I'm basically tinkering with a lot of options at the moment. So I can't really say for sure, but I do know that in the next 6 months, I probably won't be. When you call me to speak, I probably won't be just an alpha hunter or a DeFi educator or something like that. It's going to be really, really way more. That's I can promise you.
I love that. Look, sir, we look forward to the next conversation with you, sir. Look forward to what you're going to be doing over the next few months as well. Basic Degenomics is brought to you by Hashflow. We have conversations every Thursday at 12 p.m. EST with Chads like Sir Robert here. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Sir Robert, is there any final words you would like to share before we say goodbye?
Yeah. The first and most important is that, listen, your journey is quite different from a lot of people. You may be starting out something and you're comparing your progress to somebody who has gotten it out, who has figured it out in like a decade or 2 decades. It's just like I want to enter corporate business or marketing and all that. And I'm comparing myself to Andrew here, who would basically wipe my face with every single thing he knows. So a lot of people really do not really have that patience, especially to basically hone their craft and work on what they are supposed to do. So a lot of people basically compare themselves to people who have mastered the field compared to them that novices, and then in turn feel like they aren't doing enough. And it's a lie. But please here to stay. The crypto market is going to keep pumping out millions in liquidity. Devs are always going to be creating projects. People are always going to be investing. So take your time, learn it, build good connections along the way, and who knows, the big break is actually sooner than you think. That's what I'll say.
That's a very fair take. I agree with you. I'm also learning as much from Andrew as possible, trying to be a sponge. It's a blessing to be able to work with a Chad like him. Sir Robert, you enjoy your weekend, sir. It's almost here. We appreciate your time. Keep spreading the good word on the timeline, and we shall be chatting soon, sir. Andrew, pleasure to co-host as usual. Everyone, follow Hashflow, follow Sir Robert, follow Andrew. Enjoy your weekend, folks.
Peace. Thank you, Robert. Much love, my friend.